Welcome to the journey where history comes alive, stories are honored, and the past is never forgotten. If you're passionate about real war stories and powerful moments like this, make sure to join the Veteran Vault family by subscribing and becoming a member of the channel, because here, every story matters, and every hero is remembered. It's hard to describe the feeling. It's terrifying. The kind of fear that makes you question whether you'll even see the next morning. That's what those jumps felt like. I enlisted in the Army in March, and by September of 1942, I was officially in. The reason I joined wasn't random. I was chasing something specific. There was this brand new unit being talked about everywhere, something experimental, something different. It was called the 506th Parachute Infantry. At the time, airborne troops were completely new, and the idea of jumping out of planes into combat sounded both dangerous and exciting. I didn't want to be drafted into something ordinary. I wanted that challenge. I had seen articles in newspapers and magazines about this parachute infantry unit forming, and it immediately caught my attention. I knew right then it was for me. So I made my way to Fort Monroe, which was the Army headquarters at the time. The Pentagon had just been completed, but wasn't even in use yet. When I got there, they explained everything. There was just one problem. I had to be 20 years old to qualify, and I was only 19. They also required my mother's signature. One of the officers asked me where she was, and without missing a beat, I said, "She's in the car." Of course, she wasn't anywhere near there. She was back home. But I wasn't the only one bending the truth. Plenty of others did the same thing. I signed the papers, just like many others. And that's how I got into the 506th. Around 7,000 men tried to qualify for that unit, but they only needed 2,500. So they put us through intense physical and mental tests, some of the toughest conditions you could imagine. The goal was simple: break the weak and keep the strongest. By the end of it, they had selected 2,500 of the finest soldiers they could find. Then came the reality of what we had signed up for. The fear, the uncertainty, the constant thought in the back of your mind that you might not survive. That's what those jumps were really like. The night of the jump, I wasn't even supposed to be on the plane I ended up in. A British journalist from the Associated Press took the seat I was assigned, so at the last minute, I was moved to another aircraft. I didn't know anyone there. Everything felt unfamiliar and rushed. Eventually, I found a place and sat down. No one was talking. It was completely silent. Every man was lost in his own thoughts. Then the red light came on. That meant it was time. The man in front of me slipped and went down. With all the gear he was carrying, close to 150 or 200 pounds, it was nearly impossible for him to get up. I helped him to his feet, hooked him up, and got him out the door. By then, everything was chaotic. Nobody really knew what was happening or where we were. When my turn came, I jumped. It felt like I was falling forever, like time had slowed down. In reality, it was only a short descent, but in that moment, it felt endless. When I finally came down, I didn't land on open ground like I was supposed to. I dropped straight into a barn, right into a group of cows. Later, I found out it was a dairy farm, part of a carnation milk operation, and those cows were being prepared for shipment. Of all the places to land, that's where I ended up. I was scared, completely disoriented. I had no idea where I was. That was the worst part. I was supposed to be the operations sergeant. I was the one who created the sand tables before the jump, the maps that showed everyone where to go once they landed. I was the one who was supposed to understand the terrain, but everything had gone wrong. The drop was scattered badly. Only one plane landed exactly where it was supposed to, and that was the plane I was originally assigned to. Every man on that plane was either captured or killed, including my battalion commander. Eventually, I knew I had to move. Staying in one place wasn't an option. I started gathering a small group of men, 6, maybe 8 of them. They were just as lost as I was, and honestly, just as scared. I told them the truth. I had an idea of the direction we needed to go, but I had no clue where we actually were. Still, they followed me, because at that moment, someone had to take the lead. I suggested we find a farmhouse. We were in Normandy, after all, and the farmers there knew the land better than anyone. If anyone could tell us where we were, it would be them. We eventually came across a small house. Gunfire was echoing everywhere, shots in the air, hitting the ground, chaos all around us. We knocked on the door, and when the farmer and his wife answered, she immediately started screaming. I had to act fast. I covered her mouth and got both of them down on the floor to keep things quiet. Using the few French words I knew, I tried to explain. I told them it was the invasion. With everything happening around us, they understood. I pulled out my map, spread it under my raincoat, and used a flashlight to point at locations. I asked about Sainte-Mère-Église. He pointed in a direction. Then I asked about another town, then another, trying to orient the map properly. Finally, I pointed to Carentan. The farmer didn't hesitate. He tapped the ground firmly and said, "We, Carentan." The moment that sank in, it hit me hard. Carentan was the one place we were supposed to avoid at all costs. I had personally marked it on the sand tables as a danger zone, heavy enemy presence, extremely risky. And there I was, right in the middle of it. He kept pointing down at the ground, saying, we, and that's when it finally hit me. He was trying to tell me that we were right there, in Carentan. The moment I understood that, it shook me hard. That was the exact place we were warned to stay away from. Knowing we had landed right in the middle of it scared me more than anything up to that point. I didn't waste a second. I told the men, "We're getting out of here right now." At least now I knew where we were, and that gave me something to work with. We moved out quickly, heading toward the bridges that were part of our mission. We were about 5 miles away, and every step felt like it mattered. As we moved, I gathered more men along the way until I had about 21 with me. Every single one of them was terrified. Truth is, I was too, but I couldn't let that show. They needed someone steady, someone who looked like he knew what he was doing, so I held it together the best I could. At one point, we came across a captain. I figured that was my chance to hand things over. I explained the situation and told him where we were, expecting him to take command. But he looked at me and said, "No, you seem to know what you're doing. I'll follow you." So now I had a captain and a group of enlisted men, all depending on me to lead them to those bridges. We kept moving, pushing through the dark, until we ran into a group in the woods. It turned out to be the headquarters company of the 502nd. Colonel Johnson himself was there. He looked at me and asked if I knew where we were. I told him I did. He had me show him on the map, and once he saw it, he took about 8 of his men who had joined my group and went his own way. We kept going, step by step, through the night, until finally, around 4 in the morning, we reached the 2 bridges that were our objective. When we got there, Captain Shuttle, my commanding officer, was already waiting. The situation wasn't great. Instead of a full battalion, there were only 117 men there. With the 18 I had brought along, that's all we had. But before anything else, he pulled me aside and told me something I never expected. He said, "I've been authorized to tell you this if I think it's appropriate. You're now a lieutenant." Just like that, in the middle of everything, my role had changed. Later on, during Operation Market Garden, from the perspective of the 101st and 82nd Airborne Divisions, things went well. We accomplished what we were assigned to do. The real failure came from the British side. The plan had been to create a corridor stretching from Belgium all the way to Arnhem in the Netherlands, following the Rhine. Our job was to keep that route open, 100 miles of road. Both the 101st and the 82nd did exactly that. We held the roads. The British were supposed to push through with their tanks and continue the advance. But there was a problem. They stopped. Every day, at 4 in the afternoon, they would halt. It didn't matter where they were or what was happening. That pause cost them everything. They got cut off, and in the end, they lost an entire division. We had done our part. Our mission was a success, but the overall operation didn't turn out the way it was supposed to. After that, we spent 72 straight days in combat in Holland. No breaks, no relief, just constant fighting. By the time it was over, we were completely worn out. Finally, the US Army pulled us back and sent us to France for some rest. We ended up about 100 miles from Paris, and that's all anyone could think about, Paris. We hadn't had any real leave in months. For me, it had been since April, and now it was December. The idea of getting 72 hours in Paris felt like a dream. When the list came out, my name was right at the top, Lieutenant James. I was assigned as a convoy commander, taking 2 trucks filled with 36 men and another officer into the city. It didn't sound like much, but to me, it was everything. We were in the Champagne region of France at the time, and you could trade a pack of cigarettes for a bottle of champagne. Cigarettes cost us almost nothing, so we had more champagne than we knew what to do with. It was the first time I'd ever had it, and I'll tell you, I've loved it ever since. We were all set to go around December 15th or 16th. We had heard reports on the radio about German movement further north in Belgium, but it didn't concern us. We were focused on Paris. I had money saved up and planned to spend every bit of it during those 3 days. December 17th finally came. That was the day. We loaded up the trucks early in the morning and started heading out. We had only gone about 10 miles when the driver next to me pointed out an MP on a motorcycle, signaling us to pull over. I brushed it off at first. I thought it was just someone messing with me. Being a new officer, I was used to jokes. I told the driver to keep going. We weren't stopping. But then he looked at me and said, "Sir, that's a captain." I looked again. And sure enough, it was. So I pulled over and got out. I asked him what was going on, and he didn't waste any time. He told me to turn the trucks around immediately. We had been recalled. Our unit was being sent north into Belgium, and we didn't even know exactly where yet. He said we wouldn't have time for anything, just enough to get back, change, and get moving again. Just like that, Paris was gone. The trip I had been waiting for, thinking about for months, it disappeared in an instant. And to make it worse, I was standing there in a brand new uniform I had barely even worn. One moment, I was heading for a few days of freedom, and the next, I was being sent straight back into war. I remember how I must have looked, ragged, worn out, almost like a drifter in what used to be a sharp uniform. There was no shine left on it. When I finally made it back to camp, they didn't even let us clean up or switch gear. The orders were simple. Don't change a thing. Keep what you've got on. Grab whatever jacket you can find, because all our heavy gear had already been turned in. We'd been out in the field for about a week straight, and everything we had was beat up, our clothes, our equipment, even our weapons. There wasn't any time to think. We were told to pick up our weapons, gather whatever ammunition we could carry, and climb onto these flatbed trucks. That's exactly what we did. Nobody told us where we were headed. All we knew was we were moving north, somewhere into Belgium. When we finally got off those trucks, we still didn't have a clue where we were. Then someone spotted an old battered road sign, barely readable. It said Bastogne. None of us had ever heard of it before, but that's where we ended up staying, right through January 21st. Somehow, with around 18,000 of us, we managed to hold off about 180,000 German troops. After that, we moved toward Berchtesgaden. At the front line, Colonel Sink told us straight, we were going to be the first unit going in. He even said we'd be the first ones to reach the Eagle's Nest. At the time, I had no idea what that even was. When we got there, though, it was unbelievable. The place was incredible, more luxury than I'd ever seen. There was all the food you could imagine, and more alcohol than anyone could ever drink. I gathered my men and told them something important. I had never allowed them to take anything while we were moving through Belgium, Holland, or France, but now we were in Germany, and I told them this was different. They could take whatever they wanted except a human life. I made it clear, if they ran into SS soldiers who gave them trouble, they should deal with it. Once we settled in at the Eagle's Nest, everyone started looking around, taking in what was there. Nearby, there was a garage filled with large Mercedes limousines, beautiful cars. I figured I might as well have one, so my men brought one over for me. For a few days, I drove around Berchtesgaden in what had once been Hitler's own car. It didn't take long before Colonel Sink found out. He called me in and tore into me about it, told me I had no business driving that thing, and ordered me to get rid of it immediately. I told him yes, sir, I'd had it for 3 or 4 days by then. When I asked what he wanted me to do with it, he said he didn't care, just get rid of it. So I talked it over with my second-in-command and came up with an idea. Not far from us was a massive mountain, Großglockner. I'd been up there before and knew there was a lookout point with a steep drop. So we drove that car up the mountain, we got out, walked it to the edge, and pushed it right off. It tumbled down about 3,000 feet. That was the end of that limousine. Back at the Eagle's Nest, I noticed most of the guys were grabbing silverware and other valuables. I asked one of the workers there, a Dutchman, where the whiskey was stored. He pointed us downstairs. When we went down, I found 2 bottles of cognac with labels that said they were reserved for special use. I picked those up, and that was all I wanted. I kept 1 bottle for myself and gave the other to Colonel Sink. The one I kept, I brought home with me. I knew it had value, but to me, it was more about what it represented than anything else. I didn't even think about drinking it right away, even though most of the alcohol at the Eagle's Nest was gone in no time. People drank whatever they could get their hands on. Years later, at Steve's bar mitzvah, I decided that was the moment to open it. We had a gathering with a lot of my old army buddies there, and we shared that bottle together. After it was empty, we tossed it out without thinking twice. A couple of years ago, someone asked me about it, what happened to the bottle. I told them we drank it. Then they asked what I did with the empty bottle. I said I threw it away. They couldn't believe it. They told me that bottle alone would probably be worth at least $10,000 today. I just shrugged and said, to me, it wasn't worth anything like that, maybe a couple of cents. What makes stories like this so powerful isn't just the action, it's the mindset behind it. The men who were sent into Bastogne weren't prepared in the way people might imagine today. They were exhausted, undersupplied, and often unsure of what was coming next. The Battle of the Bulge was one of the harshest winter campaigns of the war, and Bastogne became a critical point because of its road network. Holding it meant slowing down the German advance, even when the odds were overwhelming. Image https://images.openai.com/static-rsc-4/4 QOWFD Q82 LJIPCRULBNJTX73 UTOAK 5SNV OHDXDR-YFWD1 PCMMDMT-YRW7MYU ZIQ X DOCZ AQKHSMG 7D PC GMHIZ6 OBOVEHHXTWVL 7 TI2 QSFOWYWAICEWCNLR Z40YFCI02 UYSMRQ0CJGSMXPUXRH7L2 DZBPMI-GAZ0XNH47 UR5RS4NJSQODUWRBGPFQTY purpose equals full size C. Image https://images.openai.com/static-rsc-4/idfzel hbike-w0567w1zbs-7HFCUQRN-MPDV-6R7HFCUQRN-MPDV-I-6JBVWMZ-TG4E_ESM60 POCD-ONMOMNTARTF_0WLXNA9LQIS4EDKRN purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static-rsc-4/x-osqz7d-cqqrj3 hhkjpnh6gb_7 mpafakdynz582 UKPXD-9EAPLTBUV8-2IDW9HFKHJ-9QWZBOHRKC-CLNODEYYHVIF8-BUBOJUD9EAPLTBUV8-2IDWJL-J3KA APQUestionMark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static-rsc-4/jti7 IYMFSOA4 UXVZECFH71 MG ZCH5PT CRV7P_CJQEEFMM7 EVJ1Y8 KURNSFWC6Y81 UZGW4FQVLC-A05QXZGDM5XD-TMBO6BV8YNLVL9 I-YF3G_3MS-22S-UXAHV1MVG UPAOV-TKJP4_IHDOV-0OBSX951G2ACXLF-TJETG-PY10Q9MR purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static-rsc-4/x-biepsebIQVUJHQOMFGCOKWTOMU7ZOL60CJSOOLKHDRQNU7GAIWHOHAHJCSFCQ1FY80PSD VOSF8 FNNLEE2QE2NI0105 NUZEGVJ96NRF underscore FQURCL1 underscore TNNMUJDP purpose equals full size. Image, https://images.openai.com/static RS-4/image.openai.com/static-RSCHTTPS://images.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai.com/static-image.openai. UTUSHPJVAB question mark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static rsc-4/cdo2lcu ht370g8yaj5axc-k hycpamfp3zxvl7jkmrdgUADWOACZ-VLFC-QI1BTX_4RMJ-OMX-BVQZ-KEHIFNZ HHAJY-PXSS feed D1IHX CXN19QWRXDG3Z3II9Z6FS VYJT3AOEETQVM7ECWU_R_YQIB VX0_L_V question mark purpose equals full size. The conditions there were brutal. Freezing temperatures, constant shelling, and very little food or medical supplies. Many soldiers didn't even have proper winter clothing. Frostbite was as much of an enemy as the German army, and yet, despite being surrounded, they held their ground. That kind of resilience didn't come from comfort or confidence. It came from necessity, discipline, and trust in the men beside you. When the story shifts to Berchtesgaden and the Eagle's Nest, it shows a completely different side of the war. Eagle's Nest wasn't just another building. It symbolized power and control at the highest level of Nazi leadership. Seeing it in person after everything those soldiers had been through must have felt surreal. One moment you're freezing in a foxhole, the next you're walking through a place filled with luxury, fine alcohol, and untouched supplies. Image https://images.openai.com/static RSC-4/R05YGKVPF03A AEIKA8I5ZQZ_PC7WD_ZJ9 RRQLOVB3 Q-LKPCKOU86JH-8OUYDB52UXDLEYQEKQ6ECIYV4NWEABCRC XB5K0C-SQN-IAHLIWZNFGSGM_JHBYOIUFB1YXQ5K0CDASHKUMMTX0WS0QRV-JO-HFV_2 A-XBORVTGVKOTZ question mark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static rsc-4/htdkavgwb_7 m-cfenm-ht3 kthnxiwooiog9-s4 1-r3 k6kt-b2 ncf3 rucnczh-sxtmxalr64mb cdqb7 uqbk5njiyvjfm1iz-tqbx59rrudczph0 cpyegbi0t8bsbuflrcs-mbm1xlkdqs6fjwy-8wqgopwz_26 uccnv2ab7 sjgjhfcntarlzdm question mark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static rsc-4/8 p1s8 i-g8 2zqyviklxsia-5 u71k a15kgwup9fmne2pn4 hukollqa4 vedx6qhh4gzt0 bgolbesslxirhn82yzkk6wgyfox3 eqftyw7vv4 evub SECOJUFJN3NYPMW question mark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static dash RSC-4/J HX9DZ6TTLFVK5JVW7 ID3F1C8RYJ-ZSSUJ FF-FDASH-Z-SSUJ-FEZPU-QEJ-ISQTKNNNJAMRWYFJBLITSPLFESLGKSXNCAGYC9ICV0SV CLA633AF 5EKYTBOOEW ZAF-PZV3KW images.openai.com/static dash RSC-4/A JF4_CF2BERKYDDIQDLYFYAS7YUO21KZWAQMKPU-TCHY0PMRZIVH9RYCZPQNMCUXMN3 EUHFK9PVD-TCA7U3L5HFBRE-GJQJJWPA4ZBSIDR5RJOLNBSHTUZLVJ3D3JSOA8 question mark purpose equals full size. Image https://images.openai.com/static dash RSC-4/WD3RX-MWQ18RZ-SL-CVLY5YIMXKRCE __5YZ-IKPQWV_5-R-SEHZGMLAXDFBLAWZPEIDSXLXCBOC1BZ3J4 ZYWP98 DWGAASR81X WJQX80WQK032RL4 ICY1 UI5 MJCZQBWTK-U2JUSWCPAC_ETIL72 NYHMAYEV0 KWGHYSU question mark purpose equals full size. That contrast often brought out mixed reactions. Some soldiers saw it as a reward after everything they endured. Others saw it as proof of the disconnect between leadership and the suffering on the ground. The decision to finally allow looting, but with limits, reflects that shift. There was still a line that many tried not to cross, even in victory. The story about the limousine says a lot too. Destroying something that once belonged to Hitler wasn't just about getting rid of a car, it was symbolic. It represented the fall of a regime that had caused so much destruction. In a strange way, pushing that car off a mountain was a moment of release, even if it was done with a bit of humor and defiance. Then there's the detail about the cognac. Out of everything available, cars, silver, luxury goods, it was something small and personal that ended up mattering most. Bringing that bottle home turned it into a piece of history, something tied directly to a moment in time. But even that wasn't treated like a priceless artifact. It was opened, shared, and eventually discarded. That says a lot about how many veterans saw these things, not as collectibles, but as memories to be lived and shared. Looking back, what stands out most is how little thought was given to future value. Today, people might see dollar signs in something like that bottle, but at the time, it was just another object. What mattered more was surviving, sticking together, and making it home. The real value wasn't in the items they took, it was in the experiences they carried with them. Stories like this give a glimpse into both the intensity and the humanity of war. There's hardship, humor, anger, and even moments of strange normalcy all mixed together. And sometimes, it's the small, almost casual decisions, like tossing away an empty bottle, that end up saying the most about how those who lived through it actually saw the world.